What's wrong? Oh, your paw. Let me see. What's wrong?
Today was supposed to be a gorgeous day out.
Come on. What happened?
But when I got to the barn, it looked like something was not quite right with Tiny. She was holding up her little paw and she was meowing a lot more than she usually does. I did a quick little assessment to see what might be wrong, but I couldn't find anything that was causing her to limp around. She wasn't feeling too sorry for herself and she was extra squirmy. I cleaned all of the random debris off of her paw and then tried to see if she was still limping, which she definitely was.
Come on. Come here.
She hobbled over to where I was sitting and I began to do a little more investigating and I find the tiniest little scrape on her paw. Tiny can be a little bit theatrical at times and I don't think her paw really hurt that bad. Out of an abundance of caution, I did scoop her up and take her into the barn so I could treat it with some disinfectant and get a little bit of a closer look. She was really squirming and she managed to get out of my arms, and then I saw her straining to pee in one of the stalls. It was really hard to tell in the shavings, but it did look like it was a little bit on the pink side, so it looks like today, instead of finally riding the horses, I am going to be taking Tiny into town to the vet. Because I didn't want her sneaking away in the next 15 minutes, I put her in the truck. The vet didn't have an appointment for me today, but she graciously is going to let me drop her off for the day and they're going to try and squeeze her in when they can. I hurried through all the morning chores, got the horses fed, and cleaned off my boots. I don't have time to go home and change, but I do have time to just hose off the majority of the poop water that I have on me. For those of you that are new to my channel, I live right down the street from the barn, so this isn't a super long drive I'm having to make with Tiny loose in the truck. As soon as she realized we were going somewhere, she kind of sprung to life and became a little bit of a handful. Hopefully by the time we get to the end of the driveway, she will just sit on my lap.
Tiny?
This is obviously a little bit on the dangerous side, so I'm gonna have to take some time to quiet her down so she doesn't cause any accidents. As I leave the barn, I am super bummed out because it is going to be a gorgeous day. With Tiny really straining to urinate, I think it's really important that I get her into the vet as soon as possible. I got her contained inside a crate for our drive into town. I also picked up some things that I'm going to take and donate to the Goodwill today while I'm out and about. Tiny was a little bit stressed out, but she did quiet down pretty quickly.
It's okay, girl. All right.
She really doesn't go on very many car rides. One of the nicest parts about having a very flexible regular job is when things like this pop up, I can scoop up the animals and take them to the vet as soon as possible. I did bring a little container of Tiny's favorite treats just to keep her spirits up while she's at the vet. I'm hoping they'll be able to see her within the next couple of hours and I'll be able to pick her up today. I'm going to make the best of this situation by going to an auction preview that is across town. They are selling off the contents of a house that's for sale and they have a lot of horse stuff. They've got 2 older UTVs that I'm going to check out and a bunch of saddles that I really want to check the trees on. The auction that they're having is all online, so I was kind of surprised they were having an in-person preview. This place is just a little bit over 10 acres and it had the cutest barn on it. It seemed like they were cleaning out pretty much the whole house. They had a bunch of fencing for sale and some feeders. This little barn looked to be kind of the same setup as mine. When I finally got there, I went straight for the saddles. A lot of times when auction companies run an estate sale like this, they don't have the best horse knowledge, so some things are mislabeled. They also aren't really good about saying the condition of things. This was an older Circle Y show saddle that looked like it had only been ridden in a few times. This is a good quality older saddle, but I don't think I really have a use for it with my horses. This little stripped down saddle is the one I was most excited to see. It does have a little bit of wrinkling on the liner under the tree, but overall this is in really good condition and it does have a real sheepskin bottom on it. That really fancy endurance saddle I bought for Ziggy had the same kind of rigging as this one. It has a 3-point rigging, which is really adjustable. This saddle has really nice brass hardware and I'm hoping I can get a steal of the deal on it. They also had 2 Orthoflex saddles listed and these are kind of funky. They have kind of a shock absorber system within the saddle. They did have a bunch of odd and ends like these billets. I did bid on a bunch of these bundles online already because the prices were starting at like $3. I am glad I'm able to get my eyeballs on some of this. This is a tie blocker ring. I use them all the time. This is an interesting bit. It has a triangle shaped mouthpiece. I wouldn't ever use this on any of my horses. Some people call them a knife edge because they are a little bit harsh on the horse's mouth. I went through all of the random bits and spurs hoping to find a little bit of a diamond into the rough, but all of this stuff is lower end and mass produced, it looks like. There was a really sweet older tractor that I wanted to check out while I was here. I really have no practical use for this, but it is a really pretty old tractor. It does look like it has a few little drippy spots underneath. When I checked online last, this was only at like $150. I think if it goes that low, even though I don't really need it, I'm gonna pretty much be forced to bid on it. There were a few little pads that I wanted to look at and see how used they were. This sale did have quite a few saddles and I'm just gonna check each of them out to see if any of them are ones that I can use. This is one of the things that I was really hoping to get a peek of in real life. It is a biothane harness. I didn't write down any of the lot numbers, so I'm not sure which is which, but I have bid on a few of these. They also did have 2 pack saddles that I was interested in. It does look like one of these harnesses is a draft size. They had a handful of older Circle Y saddles that I was looking at as well. I have had really good luck in the past with these older Circle Ys, even if they're the production model with a synthetic fleece. They do fit a lot of horses. This stuff isn't for sale, but this barn is really cool. The stalls are actually open runs and that is a really nice setup. Like I said earlier, this place is for sale. So while I'm going through this stuff, if you guys want to think about how much it may be for sale for, I'll tell you at the end of the video. All of these bridle setups are for sale, but there's nothing really that's catching my eye. This is a happy mouth that does have some damage to it. As soon as I felt this bit, I knew it was a little bit higher quality than the other ones. And after some investigating, it looks like this one is a JWP snaffle. I believe those are the production line of the Jeremiah Watt bits. I don't really need any more bridles, but I am looking to find something that Ziggy might be comfortable in. I would prefer just to start him out in a snaffle, which I already have. There were a few leather halters and some show halters. This one's for, I think, an Arabian. I'm surprised they didn't lot more of this together, but pretty much everything on this wall is selling separately. It looks like the only bit setup that I'm really interested in is that Jeremiah Watt. There really weren't too many bids on anything yet, so it's hard to say what all of this is going to sell for. This is a side pull with a snaffle in it. They used to be pretty popular, but I don't think they're very practical for actually teaching horses things. This snaffle setup is the kind that's nice to have an extra of hanging around, so I'm going to put that on my list. This is another saddle that looked like it hadn't ever been ridden in. It is a Billy Cook, and this one was made in Sulphur, Oklahoma, so it's the more popular style. I'm not a really big fan of them, and this one was a little bit too big for me, so I don't think I'll be bidding on it. This was an older Hereford saddle that I'm also not too interested in. I did try to look up the maker on this saddle and I couldn't find any information on it, so it's probably a pretty small saddlery. This does not really look like a production saddle to me, so it'll be interesting to see how much it goes for when the auction pops up. This is one of those Orthoflex saddles. Here is a better view of it. I have sold these in the past and they're pretty easy to sell for around $500, so I'm going to keep my eyeballs on that one as well. I'm trying not to put too much of this stuff on my list because I do have a lot of extra things laying around. Used saddle pads can be tricky to buy because you always run the risk of getting fungus on your horses. I was interested in checking out this set of panniers. This actually goes on top of a saddle and they really don't do a very good job of distributing weight across the horse. I will keep an eye on them, but I do think that I probably won't be bidding on those. I've been in this barn for quite a while and there's actually a lot more stuff outside, and they do have a little indoor arena. They didn't put the sizes of the saddles online, so I thought this was a full-size seat until I saw it in person, and it is definitely maybe a 12-13 inch, so a kid's saddle. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes for around $500, which is a little bit on the pricey side for a used saddle at an auction. This barn really is a good setup. They have a bunch of stuff for sale outside, and I'm just going to wander over and check out the water tanks that they have. I think this used to be a dry lot at some point, but it does have grass overgrowing it a little bit. These are the kind of water tanks I like to get, but these do have quite a bit of wear on them, at least on the inside. Like pretty much everything else, if they do go cheap enough, I might snatch them up. These are 100-gallon tanks, and when they're on sale locally, I can get them for around $90, so they would have to be a bunch cheaper than that. I am really liking the communal style turnouts and run-in sheds that this barn has. There is a little mini pivot that I think is part of the property, and then they do have some dry lots that go out to the pasture, so this is a pretty good setup. I am just going to go wander into the arena and see what they have there. This round pen looks nice, but it is definitely one that I would be concerned with the horses snapping their legs off in the railing. They did have an older mid-sized Kubota tractor that I was looking at. I think this is going to be too expensive for me to think about investing in at this point. The views from this place are pretty good. It has probably almost a 360 mountain view. All of the pasture surrounding it makes it feel like a lot more open space than it actually is. I did talk to someone that was roaming around to see when the last time horses were here, and they said pretty recently, but it looks like there haven't been any out in the pasture for quite some time. I wanted to check out this little flatbed. This is another thing that I have on my list for investing in. These are quite expensive new, so when you find one used, it is definitely worth checking out. This would be the perfect size for picking up round bales. But when I took a look at the tongue, it was a little bit bent, and that is a pretty important part of the trailer, especially when you're hauling something very heavy, so I don't think I'm even going to bid on this one. They had a really fancy commercial lawnmower and then a little four-wheeler that I wasn't really too interested in. I was super excited to get my eyeballs on the few carts and carriages that they were selling. They had just a basic entry cart and then this carriage that is gorgeous. I do think they have a reserve on this that they don't let you know before the bidding starts. It is in really good shape. There's a little bit of wear on the top of the box on the back. It is super clean, especially compared to my hands that are a little bit on the dirty side still. They also had this carriage that was in really excellent condition. I have a feeling that this one's going to sell for quite a bit of money. This area has a lot of people coming out for destination weddings, and it seems like a lot of them like to incorporate horses whenever they can. This cart was also in really good condition. I do think this is a draft horse size one. I have spent some time driving draft horses and pulling carriages and things, but it's not something that I do regularly. As I was checking out all of the carts, I did catch out of the corner of my eye the Polaris that I came to look at. This one is a 6-wheeled machine. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a hydraulic bed. It also had quite a bit of wear on the tires, and I think it's wider than the Gators I've been looking at, so I don't even know if I could park this inside the barn. I hopped inside to start it up to see what the engine sounded like, and I could not get it started, so that is definitely something I'm going to take into consideration when I'm bidding. Used ATVs and UTVs out here sell for a lot more than they actually should. Maybe it's because people use them until they don't run anymore, but something like this Kubota is probably going to sell for more than it would in other parts of the country. This one is really nice. It is a diesel, and I decided not even to start this one up because I do think it's going to be out of my price range. Although I do like buying things used, the benefit of buying a new machine like this is you know exactly how it's been used its entire life. This one does look like it's been stored inside and not used too much, so I do think it will sell pretty high. For me, it would actually be more expensive to buy something used because I would have to pay in cash. If I were to invest in a brand new piece of machinery, I could have it financed for probably a pretty good rate because I have excellent credit. There is only one more thing that's on my list I need to find, and it looks like they do have quite a few more rooms of things laid out. I came at the very beginning of the preview so it wouldn't be too busy. I am always looking for a good deal on a ranching truck, and this one is in way better condition than I had thought. It is a 2008 Duramax, and the inside looks almost brand new. I don't even have to hop inside this to know it is probably going to sell for way more than I'm going to want to spend. As I'm leaving, I finally find the rack of clothing with this duster that I wanted to check out. This is a Filson, and they actually don't even make this model of their tin cloth duster coat anymore. I have a feeling now that I see the condition of this that it is going to go for more than I want to spend just to have it around. This property does have a house on it that is a super cute log cabin. I have a few other things that I need to do in town, so I didn't even go in the house to look at the preview items in there. The house is 3,500 square feet, and the arena is a 120 by 60. This property is set up very nice, and you can tell that it has been pretty well taken care of. But you guys are gonna freak out when you hear the price. I'll give you another minute or two to guess how much they are selling this for. I am heading to the Goodwill to drop off some items to donate, and then I'll pop inside to see a few things. While I was waiting, I checked the price on that house, and it is listed for over $3 million. So for everyone who's always hassling me to buy my own property, that is one of the reasons that we cannot find a suitable place. Maybe I'll find a priceless artifact in here today that will finance an overpriced horse farm for me. For anyone new to my channel, my quote-unquote real job is selling things used online. I am going to go through the store pretty quick today because I don't know when Tiny's going to be ready to get picked up. I picked up this vintage Trapper Keeper that should sell for over $100. I found this Dale of Norway shirt. This dress felt really nice and I couldn't find a tag until I unzipped it, and it was Diane von Furstenberg. I've been doing this for quite a while and I can tell when a piece of clothing is higher quality. This Peruvian Connection dress was in brand new condition. Most of the stuff I got today, I did not even look up for comps online. I know they are worth me getting. I have not been really adding new stuff to my store, but I have been buying a lot of things to list in the fall and winter when it's snowing out. This is something that I typically don't get, but it was new with tags and it is a nice basic black dress, so someone will like it. It is such a nice day out. I just hate to be inside. But I did find a lot of good things today, like these Lululemon tops, which should sell pretty well for me. I also found a pair of brand new with tags, Not Your Daughter's jeans. These retail for almost $100. I zipped through the shoes very quickly. I'm trying not to buy too many shoes, but these duck feet clogs should sell for around $75 used. I buy all kinds of things year round, and I did find this really nice cashmere sweater new with the tags that I did grab. It's always a good day at the thrift when you find Johnny Was, and I snatched this up immediately. I spent around 45 minutes going through the store, and then I got a call that Tiny was ready to get picked up. I did pop home and get Huckleberry. The driveway to the vet is a gravel road, and he was convinced that we were going on a bike ride or a hike.
You okay, Tiny?
Tiny did look a lot more bright than when I dropped her off. The vet gave her some antibiotics for a suspected UTI. I am pretty bummed that this did take me all day long.
You okay? Tiny? Tiny?
She wasted no time running inside the barn and sitting on the shaky plate.
Get on the shaky plate?
Since I was in a little bit of a rush this morning, I did have a few chores to complete. So I cleaned out all the stalls, I drug the big arena, I brushed a few of the horses just for good measure. Skeletor did get turned out on his tiny pasture, and then I also drug his tiny arena as well. As the sun started to go down and I finally finished for the evening, I was just very grateful that Tiny was on the mend. The arenas are in tip-top shape for me to start working the horses. And I did get a plan together for which items I'm going to be bidding on this evening for the auction. I don't really need any more saddles, but it's always hard for me to turn a good deal down. I'm sure if I end up purchasing any, I will show them to you guys in another video. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Here is a tiny bit of a sneak peek of some of the things that I was bidding on during the auction. I did end up winning quite a few bids and am super excited to show you guys exactly what I got for Skeletor and Ziggy. I will definitely have a video out on these things in the near future.